Anti-Māori, hateful and untrue. That's how educators have described books by Wellington-based company Tross Publishing after stumbling across them in mainstream bookshops. Now there are calls for shop owners to think carefully before stocking them. Māori Affairs reporter Te Aniwa Huri Hanganui reports.
A recent trip to her local Paper Plus left English literature teacher Brittany Rose reeling.
I found Tross publications. I don't know, it just sort of set up a few red flags for me. So I looked closer and it was disgusting.
Pages and pages warning of the dangers of a so-called greedy tribal elite.
Kia ora, Aroha. I really enjoyed your kōrero. While you're talking, you said that there's a $42.6 billion economic base for Māori, and I just did some little number stuff. That's $71,000 for each of us, and I don't know about you, but I work with a lot of Māori in prison, and they don't have $71,000. And so what I'm asking is, if there's so much money out there, and it's in Māori hands, but most of us don't have it, what do we have in common with people who do have that? Is the class division in Māori society reaching the stage where we can definitively say maybe we don't have anything in common with these people anymore?
Can you just, Apātai anō, can you just ask just your question a little bit louder? Sorry, it's quite hard to hear. Can we get the mic turned up a little bit?
And descriptions of early Māori as savages saved by colonisation.
And it just struck me as incredibly insensitive, ill-informed and damaging. It's not at all what we should be having on the shelves of our bookstores.
Colonisation devastated Māori, claiming land and lives. This academic is equally disgusted.
I would hate for my daughters to stumble across some bookstores, but on the other hand, I'd like for them to be prepared to realise this for what it is, which is just hate material, really.
Initially, Tross Publishing told me by email it doesn't engage with mainstream media and declined an interview. Later, the company wrote to TVNZ's CEO, but not to me. One of the authors, John Robinson, said he rejected the untrue charges made against Tross Publishing, calling the claims ridiculous and saying he believes in equality, decency and accuracy.
A new study has concluded that Māori were likely the first humans to set eyes on Antarctic waters and even the continent itself. Researchers from Manaaki Whenua Landcare Research and Te Runanga o Ngaitahu connected oral histories and published literature to better understand Māori connections to Antarctica, connections that go back as far as the 7th century. I spoke earlier this morning to University of Otago Associate Professor and Conservation Biologist Priscilla Wehi. She told me she was unaware of the scale of the relationship between Māori and Antarctica.
So right from the early voyages of Hui Te Rangiora, Tamarereti and others, right through to the 19th century, where Māori participated in whaling and other voyages to Antarctica, right through to today, with scientists going down to the ice every year. Amazing connection that we didn't really expect. Yeah,
you only have to listen to people recite whakapapa back hundreds of years and do it the same every time to know that these it's just another way, isn't it, of putting on record. It might be in an oral way rather than a written form, but it can be consistent, right?
That's right, and I think it's shaking up our thinking a bit. So if you think about an oral culture, the way that people store and pass knowledge on is going to be different. So we need to broaden our thinking and consider the kinds of narratives that carvings hold for kairo, or in this case oral traditions, because there's an awful lot of information there.
The company also wrote to the Broadcasting Minister, calling my request for comment intimidating and threatening defamation action.
The company has been publishing books that condemn things like treaty settlements and the Waitangi Tribunal for years, and thus still being sold by big franchises. This book, the latest in its collection, says the He Puapua report will divide the country. He Puapua is a plan to help the government live up to commitments made to the United Nations.
He Puapua is a document that's designed to give life to the treaty. They call on half-truths and then outright lies.
Can I think it's a really important question, and I want to address it in a very specific way, and that is that I'm Pākehā. So, we've had our hegemony for a very long time. It feels very uncomfortable to be challenged in certain ways, and to feel that somehow we are not going to be able to maintain our hegemony. Sorry, perhaps there's a better word, but our hegemony. So how is it that we have a discussion in which we can talk to Pākehā, with Pākehā, about how being Pākehā, what that means in a 21st century New Zealand in which te tiriti plays a more fundamental role? I'm an optimist. I would like to think that we can have that discussion by saying these are the things that you can gain. You're not losing anything, you're gaining something. Now that might be very Pollyannish, but it's how you frame it. And I think we've got some wonderful people. I mean, Moana Jackson has been one of the speakers in the series. And, having heard Moana on many occasions, I think that he and others are able to discuss very difficult issues in ways that are not undermining, which are affirming, even to Pākehā who need to change and might need to give up some of the things that they feel some of the things they hold very important.
The vision of Te Puapua is just, and Māori just want to live in Aotearoa in dignity.
There are calls for stores selling the books to promote balance.
What really disturbed me about this was that it was the idea that freedom of speech is about being able to have any opinion and go unchallenged.
Or rethink whether they sell them at all.
Maybe it's about the purchasers who may wish to buy or not buy these things.
The books have been seen on the shelves at both Paper Plus and Whitcoulls, but both deflected our queries. In a statement, Paper Plus told One News it doesn't support racially charged views and says it doesn't buy from Tross Publishing centrally. Whitcoulls says it doesn't have a trading account with the company. We've asked for clarification as to why the books can be purchased at both stores. Te Aniwa Huri Hanganui, One News.